up every day without a roof over your head or having to wonder where your next meal is going to come from. This is the life and the story of many young people who are living homeless in this country. These are young people who don't even know what tomorrow brings. These are young people who are living with absolutely no hope. But today we are going to put a spotlight on young people who've turned the tide on their homelessness. Before they were called street kids, but today they have a new story and a new life. Let's go meet them.
First day, how feel like starting is because of first of all how to be more to le all in koyona how it's so first day starting it's very hectic and then to sing out
yona impela sesitradini ayikho right ngoba manje ugcina suba ngathi awusumuntu normali ngoba nasekhanda ugcina ucabanga into eziningi uyacabanga ukuthi ulala udlini uyithola phi imali and ngapha awazi ukuthi ubani uzokusiza ngoba each and everywhere la uhamba khona akubiza ngamagama.
Especially now Twilight Center and Twilight's Children's Center. How's your life changed? How has it transformed? But I think most importantly, what are you looking forward to most?
Twilight Center into even though but then today I've got a home, I've got a job.
Mina ukuza kwami la kungisizile ngokuthi senginendawo noma ngisesikoleni ngiyazi ngizobuyelaphi noma ngihambile ngiyodlala ngenza yonke into idisk ngiyakwazi ukuthi okay ngendlu nala khona ngizokhona ukuthi ngihlale khona ngikhona ukuzicabanga ngazi ukuthi ngifunani.
First and foremost baske babajaja and naming them like street kids. They are not street kids, they are human beings, and but I think the problems are not different. Yes, there are those that are but mainly and try and give yourself time to understand them why by strategy.
And on that note, we want to say hello, Dumelang Sanbonani, South Africa. Welcome to Expressions. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
And I'm your host, Umgolisi Wagamasango. Namhlanje kusihlwa, we focus on the most vulnerable children in our society, the homeless children. Umbuzo wethu namhlanje kusihlwa, is the plight of South Africa's homeless children ignored?
Well, that's a very important question because homeless children continue to face neglect and a grim future, calling themselves the forgotten youth. These young people often seek shelter under bridges. Others are lured into a life of crime, including robbery, shoplifting, and sometimes burglaring.
Yeah, saying Jackie, the plight of the homeless was recently put on the spotlight. Now, this was after they were targeted by what is considered to be a serial killer. Now, this was in Pretoria. Say Expressions, we of course took to the streets to find out what young people have to say about this. Do take a look.
Hi Expressions, my name is Samkele. I'm going to be a street journal for today. I'm going to be speaking to young people regarding the issue of homeless young children.
The young adults are the future of this country, so it's a very bad thing to see them lying on the streets, having no dreams or no future whatsoever. So it's a very bad thing.
I feel really sad for homeless children because they have different reasons to be here, and most of them it's because they lack support at home, and that's why they're on the street. Most of them have lost their parents, and that's when they actually realize that they are on their own.
There's a lot of favoritism going on inside our homes that we don't recognize of. Like, for example, a girl and a boy. Those are two different genders. Therefore, a mother can see a girl as a high-rated person than the boy child. So that thing pushes the other child away from home, and that shows that there's no love within their parents.
They are the reason why toropo eleliswe because of bone wherever ko baleng teng batletse, even that side ya park station batletse ba bangata, and so ke feel gore like ke bone ba ba dirang le gore toropo e neliswe.
Some of them are victims of abuse. Some of them are actually juvenile delinquents, which means that they have tendencies of which their parents cannot tolerate, and then they end up not seeing by one eye with their parents, and so they decide to move out. Some of them are victims of drugs. You know how drugs can actually disturb the mindset.
If like you don't have the basic need, which is the shelter, like even eating does not mean anything if you don't have something to cover your head on. So home for them.
They also need help, and they also need love, because it is not easy for them. You can even see this guy here. Yeah,
Right.
it's a pity. I feel pity for them.
Thank you so much.
Some interesting comments there coming from young people on the streets. But to help me take this discussion further on this very important issue that we're talking about, the plight of homeless children, I'm joined in studio by Mr. Nyika Machejedze, who is from the Save the Children SA, and he's the project manager there. I'm also joined by Miss Emily Langa, who is from the Hillbrow Twilight Children, and she is the social worker there. Lady and gentlemen, welcome to Expressions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here. And of course, I never do this by myself. My co-host Mkolisi is manning our social media corner and of course bringing some of your perspectives and insight on this also important discussion that we're having in studio. I think, Nyika, maybe let me start with you. Give us an overview around what it is that you do as Save the Children SA, but I think most importantly, how you assist homeless children who end up living on the street.
Thank you very much. In brief, Save the Children is a child rights organization that is mainly focused on advocates for promotion and protection of all children's rights in the country. And the focus is mainly on advocates and influencing policy that gives a platform for the maximum protection of all the children. And we are more a technical support organization, both to government and partners such as Plight, although we don't have a working relation now with them. But that's the role that we play. And mainly with children that are homeless, our focus is to assist partners that work with such children. We currently work with an organization called Kids Heaven, which really focuses on that kind of a role and taking children out of the streets and transforming their lives and giving them a better chance.
Ma'am Emily, I mean, you've got extensive experience working with homeless children, and obviously you've worked in terms of rehabilitating them. I want to get to the crux of the issue around the challenges that shelters experience when they're dealing with homeless children. We know that there's a cut-off age of 18 years old. So the question is, once these young people have come into a shelter such as yours, and now they've reached the age of 18, what happens to them?
Well, firstly, I need to correct that Twilight Children no longer works with children. We started a new program altogether that is called Street Youth Outreach, where we opened up a space for the youth that live in the street and want to exit from street life. This is where it comes from. So one of the things that affect them, because they grew up in the children's homes, in the shelters when they were 8, 9, 10. Now they remained there up until they were 18. And then the new legislation forced them, the child and youth care centers, to discard them. So then they went back to the streets and they had problems there. The reason why we looked for them and started this program, it was to help them, to redirect them back to education, but we have a problem with those who don't have IDs, for instance, because when they came to the shelters in the first instance, they didn't have parents. So now, at the age of 18, when we want to trace their parents, we can't find them, they can't apply for birth certificate. It's a big problem, and it frustrates them, because if you have no ID, you
You're
can't
invisible.
get a job, you can't
virtually...
go to tertiary, you can't do anything.
Yeah. And I think this issue of invisibility, this issue of being forgotten is a critical matter that I think we want to touch on. I mean, as an advocacy group, how do you ensure that we protect homeless children? How do we make sure that we keep them safe? I mean, we heard Go Cape Town, for instance. The city of Cape Town, came under fire because they're finding homeless people. I mean, how do we maintain their rights? I think, let me take that to you.
I think it is quite important to realize that protection of children's rights will require resources. But there is so much we want to do as a country, but we are not willing to put our resources where we want to do. For instance, we want to remove them from the streets, but we haven't prepared centers to take them to. It doesn't help to take a child who's in the street into a normal CYCC where every other child is, because their requirements of interventions they want are different. So we need to start centers that are more for rehabilitation and rehabilitation of even personalities, because you heard one of the child saying it's very violent in the streets. So they get used to that kind of life. To put them in a shelter, we need to rehabilitate them. So there is a lot of investment that needs to take place into creating centers that will help rehabilitate these children before they are moved to normal CYCC where all other children are. But it brings in many other elements because they are now victims of even identity theft. Because if they have no identity and somebody knows this child exists, they can assume that identity. And it also bridges in the issues of migration.
Yeah.
Children moving from other countries with their parents and they are left there. There is a lot that needs to be taken care
no,
of.
look, it seems like it's a mammoth issue that requires all hands to be on deck, and we need a lot of support and resources. And I'm so glad that a show like Expression is really putting a spotlight on such an important issue. And at least children who are homeless are no longer forgotten. They're no longer invisible because of a show like this. So thank you so very much for you guys for coming through. But Mboredukai, stay with us because we're going to continue. Mkolisi is on the flip side of this. You're watching Expressions.
Still on all your social media platforms, this is Expressions. Isiphinde sinibingelele sinamukele. Now, this is your #1 Youth Current Affairs show. Namhlanje kusihlwa siyabuza ke, is the plight of South Africa's homeless children ignored? I'm now joined by Thabo Kampine, who right here in studio. Good evening and welcome to Expressions. Thabo Mfethu, you spent a lot of time with abantwana ba homeless, right? Ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi how did you end up with organization efana ne Twilight? I know ukuthi ubu-commuter, but there also you've established relationships nabantwana who spend a lot of time on the streets. Those are people who've become your sisters, your brothers. I was telling about some of the things that they go through each and every day that you don't like.
Like usually la ngidlala khona, like abafana bakhona, like mababuya esikolweni benza ama homework, after doing homework bayahamba abanye bayophanda for imali nyani, for pocket money. Yeah.
Baphanda kanjani for a pocket money?
Like bancedisa abantu emakethi ngokuba phake kuba phekele izinto ama-veggie. Yeah, from there until late.
So uzwile nale times sizibukela insert lapha yakhona omunye othena abanye babo baba ma delinquents abalaleli ubusika manje kuyabanda abanye babo bachitha isikhathi esiningi estradini mfethu ungathini kulabantu laba bathi bayaganga labantu
Kimi ngathi like mele babuyele like bafuna indawo babuyele back to homes because ngaphandle like so kuyabanda manje and it's not safe. Because nakhona you can die ngale winter lesekhona manje.
Yeah, sengisho ukuthi umyalezo wakho ukutshela abantu ukuthi abantwana aba homeless abezwa bayaganga ungathini kulabo bantu ukuthi ubashintshe umqondo?
Mina ngathi kubo like mele like bazicabange ukuthi babuya kuphi and yeah babone ukuthi like life injani because
All right, let's bring Mum Emily into this conversation. Mum Emily, now, as we've seen in cities like Cape Town, where we've seen the municipality imposing fines on homeless children, do you feel as an NGO that we've been failed by our government?
Come again?
Do you feel that we've been failed by our government as an NGO?
I don't think the government failed the country per se, because the Children's Act prescribes that children beyond the age of 18 are not supposed to be in the children's homes because they should have been prepared for independent living in the first instances. But with the previous shelters, remember that they used to take children at any age. And most of them had lost 2 to 3 years of schooling, for instance. They are behind with their schooling as well. So when they were asked to leave with the change of legislation, they were still in the streets whilst going to school. But with time, they couldn't cope with the pressures of the school, of the street. Then they relapsed and went back to drugs and went back to live in the streets. So there is a big gap, unfortunately, in the country. There is no provision for after 18. So my fervent plea would be, let's have as many NGOs as possible that will now give support to the 18-year-olds and above, because it's a big gap in our country.
Indeed, an absolute big gap. And to see expressions, we decided to also do this show. Winter, we do know there's a lot of young people in Bugeli, and at the back of that, we also would like to know what you thought. And this is your expression for this week. Please roll it for me.
I don't think homeless children are being ignored. They are taken good care of, to be very honest, because we have social workers, and social workers always arrange by all means to get orphanage homes, and that's where these children get to have all the support they need. And at the very same time, other people, other families as well, decide to adopt the kids. So I think they are taken good care of.
Ma'am Emily, our viewer there, says the plight of the homeless is not really ignored. We have social workers, but don't you think the system gets to a point where it's overwhelmed? Do we have enough social workers to take care of bonke abantwana basestradini this winter?
Not at all, not at all. Until in this country we start to have what we can call community development social workers, because we used to have community development workers, but they were not social workers. They used to go to the community, look for problems, find the problems there, and then bring them to social workers, mostly at the government social workers or other big NGOs.
So let's get more people in our communities.
Now we need social workers who are professionally trained to work with the situation, because most of the street children, they come from dysfunctional families. So if you don't deal and work with the family of the child, you'll never help the problem that affected the child in the first instance. And the people who are trained to do that, it's nothing but social workers. So we have very many retired social workers.
So we need
like
more
myself.
of those,
We need those to work directly in the community.
Indeed, Ma'am Emily. Yes. Okay, Mbugeli, now again, Uzwela, and we also see your comments coming through on our Facebook as well as our Twitter, and of course we'll be scrolling them as the show continues. Now remember to tell a friend that the hottest current affairs show is now on. We'll be back after this.
Welcome back. You're watching Expressions here on SABC1, and we are speaking about a very important issue. We're talking about the plight of homeless children in our country. And the poll question that we're asking you is the plight of South African homeless children ignored in this country? Do they remain invisible and completely forgotten by us as a community? And unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up this conversation. But I think from you, Nyika, I want to find out. I mean, there's a lot of speculation as to why young people end up on the street. What are the root causes behind, why they end up in a homeless and homeless situation?
Well, it is really a number of speculation exists, but the main causes why children end up in the streets is mainly social problems in the homes. There is poor parental skills, and this is an area that Save the Children has decided to focus on when it comes to protection of children, because parents give birth to children. No child comes with a prescription of how to raise them. And if that is not done well, children end up outside of the home. So we have programs such as positive parenting, awareness programs that are being rolled out in many communities, which helps parents and communities transform their views to children that are without parents. And another thing is also death of parents. Our communities are no longer as they were before, where the community will buffer children whose parents have died. So if parents die, children are left on their own. Where do they go? They end up in the streets. And we also have parents who are irresponsible. It should be first. Who uses drugs, and children are pushed out of homes. And also not keeping children in school leads to homelessness.
So there are various challenges, but it's definitely not because the kids are delinquent or they just don't want it to fall under rules. And for you, Mum Emily, I mean, we want a lot of these homeless children to turn their lives around, but it's very difficult if they don't have IDs. So talk to us a little bit around what you're doing to help some of these homeless children to be able to turn their lives and to be able to be employable and to be able to have a future and a hope.
It's very difficult because they depend on, if they have no parents, they depend on extended families to help them, the aunts, the uncles who have same surnames. But because the families are dysfunctional in most cases, the extended family, they don't want to help them. And it's difficult for social workers, again, to trace, their parents. The appeal from the society is help the children who are in the sick, engage them, talk to them. They're not they are harmless. Talk to them, find out what their plight is, so that you can, as individuals.
So I mean, gone are the days where we are treating them like they're not there. I think our attitudes definitely need to change. And unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so very much for coming and sharing your insights and a lot of food for thought. And we wish you the very best in all the work that you're doing, especially for you, Mum Emily.
Thank you.
Hey, Mko?
Yeah, Jackie, and we continue to spare thought. It's winter. We're facing one of the coldest temperatures ever. Mbugeli, we did ask you, is the plight of South Africa's homeless children ignored? And this is what you had to say. Please show me the results. About 60% of you said yes, and about 40% said no.
And it's a sentiment that Mum Emily does not necessarily agree with 100% because she's on the ground. And, I think a lot of work still needs to be done, right, Mko?
Absolutely. And as a community, say expressions, we can only start the conversation. It's up to Ababugeli Makaya what they do about it. Thank you so much for joining us, Lapo Ekaya Mbugeli. Cutting Edge is up next. From all of us, we wish you a spectacular evening going forward.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. I need a holiday, I need to catch a wave, I need to work on me, I need to work on me. I'm feeling amazing, I need the zazzy. Don't worry about chasing the girls, paper is all that I'm chasing. I got my baby though, cook up and buy the Mercedes, bro. This is a life that we're waiting for, finessing my music on radio. Can you wait, need me some pounds, I need, wait, hey. I need to know what the is it the Z or is just a boy? Is it just me or you looking hard? Feel so messed up, I just smoked the bomb. I blame it on killer, he put me on. Calling my rebels, the jig is on. Was again putting the feelings on. Was again putting the feelings on. I feel alive today.